Ben Affleck's new movie, The Way Back, is about so much more than basketball. It's about redemption. It's about alcoholism. It's about grief. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you all about those aspects of the movie. For those of you who are new here, I'm Amber Hollingsworth. I am not a movie reviewer. I'm actually a master addiction counselor. And this YouTube channel is all about helping you understand the science and psychology of addiction so that you can beat addiction, recover your life and your family, and get back to living the life that you want to live. Okay, so let's get down to talking about this movie, The Way Back, with Ben Affleck. So, before I get into all that, let me tell you this confession. I have never been to a movie by myself. I always thought that would be a little bit weird, kind of like eating in a restaurant. I've done that by myself when I've been out for work and stuff like that, and I just had to eat lunch, had to eat with myself, but never been to a movie by myself. Went to see The Way Back this morning by myself at 10:30 in the morning. And just so you know, today is what they call it, spring forward, so it was actually like 9:30 in the morning. I'm kind of impressed with myself, gotta say that. But I did it specifically for the purposes of I wanted to understand this movie and the picture it shows about alcoholism so that I could talk to you guys about that. And I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised. Number one, I liked going to see a movie by myself, so that was interesting. I think I'll do that some more. And secondly, I'm really glad I saw this movie by myself because it really allowed me to take in the full picture without any kind of distraction. There was hardly anyone else in theater. There was actually more people in there, believe it or not. It was super early in the morning on Sunday morning, but the whole movie was very moving. In fact, I found that I really held my breath for most of it. I mean, I would literally catch myself holding my breath and have to remind myself to breathe. And I think the reason, because it was so powerful. This movie is not your typical movie about the sort of basketball, or sort of not basketball, but sports team who's way behind with a bunch of sort of misfit kids who pull it together and win the championship. I mean, there's a little bit of that element, but most of those movies are mostly about that with maybe a little bit of backstory. This movie is almost all about backstory and just a little bit of the sports, young kids sort of figuring it out kind of thing. But I want to speak specifically to how well I thought alcoholism was portrayed in this movie. Many of you, or most of you, probably know that Ben Affleck himself has struggled with alcoholism. And in my research about this movie, I heard somewhere that he wasn't long out of rehab when he went to film this movie. And he actually had a recovery coach that went with him to sort of be there for him throughout the filming of this movie. And I have to wonder to myself, how triggering was this? There were so many scenes that were just so right on the money about alcoholism. I mean, it was just sort of this constant drinking, and in a way that just, it was sort of, I guess it was just real and gritty. And even in the beginning, you don't even really understand why he's drinking or the whole sort of behind the scenes story of it, but you really feel the painfulness in the drinking. This isn't one of those stories that sort of glorifies drugs and alcohol. This is the reality of what alcoholism looks like and feels like. And I think maybe that's why I was holding my breath, because I mean, I could really feel what he was going through. There's a scene near the beginning where he gets in his truck after work. He's driving home and he reaches in behind the seat into this cooler and grabs a beer out. And I just connected to that on such a strong level. In fact, I immediately remembered a time when a client of mine told me how he had measured that little space between the back seat and the back of the passenger side front seat to see exactly how big of a cooler he could put back there, because that is what alcoholism is. It's this preoccupation, this focus on how he had this paper cup. Actually, I have a cup that I had at Costco today, sort of like this, that he that he pours the alcohol in while he drives down the road. And even though you might think you're watching this guy drink and drive, you really just feel the pain that he feels when you're watching this. And then there's sort of drinking in the shower. I can't tell you how many countless times I've listened to clients talk about drinking or smoking in the shower, and your heart breaks for this character. I just can't even tell you. So I thought that it was absolutely true to form. I really could not have taken all of my years of, hey Jay, how are you doing? I'm doing great. I'm better now. I cried this morning. I had to put my makeup back on just to do this video, watching the way back. But I could not have taken all of my years of experience and put together a better script or shown it to you in a more authentic way than was shown in this movie. Like, really. So as far as the origins of alcoholism and how it works and what happens, this was right on the money. Those of you who follow this channel know that I tell you all the time that addiction and alcoholism happens most often to someone after a severe, major, unwanted loss. And that is true to form in this story about Jack Cunningham, who's just sort of blue-collar worker who's been through this major loss. I won't tell you exactly what that is. You can watch the movie, but and he's just drinking to deal with that. The other thing that I thought was right on form with alcoholism was you can see that this character Jack has not at all sort of healed or come around the other side of all of these past hurts and resentments, which is right on the money with alcoholism. And I just can't even tell you how true that is. Like, if you are drinking or using to deal with some kind of hurt or loss or pain, you will not get over it, particularly with drinking. When I talk to alcoholics in my office, they can be telling me about something that happened 20 years ago, and it's just like it happened yesterday. And you can feel that happening in this character. The next thing that comes to my mind when I looked at it was just the shame and avoidance that you watch as you watch the dynamics between this character Jack and his family and the friends, everyone around him. You can see that even though there are moments where he's playful and talkative and friendly, that it is nothing but a mask. And that is so true to any kind of addiction, because the person, you can interact with other people in a way that looks normal, but you feel very disconnected from that. And you can see that although he has people in his life, that he has this whole other world going on the inside, that all of that is just almost like a performance that he's going through. Work, life. You know, there in the beginning of the movie, you see a scene where he goes to sort of family Thanksgiving and he's participating in that. And you can see that he's just barely functioning and getting through all those everyday moments when inside he's just falling apart. I'm telling you, it is powerful. And so that brings me to the next level that caught my attention, which was the dynamics between him and everyone around them. Just like you can feel this character Jack, where he's sort of lonely, isolated, and hurting, but he's just sort of going through life, getting through every day. The people around him can see that, and it's pretty clear. And he pretends that they can't see that, and they, for the most part, pretend that it's not happening. But you can feel it building. You can feel it coming from these different characters that they're about to say something. And all throughout this movie, I'm thinking to myself, okay, like, if this was a guy I was treating, or if I was treating this guy's family, how would I tell them to interact or say something, or would I tell them to say something? Because those of you who know me, you know that this is what I do, is I help families know how to intervene in these kind of situations. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what if they, come up to him and try to be really nice about it? I'm thinking, that's not going to work. In the movie, you can see the sister kind of comes at him, and she comes at him in these different ways. Sometimes it's in these little sort of side-handed, like backdoor jabs, I call them. And other times she tries to come at him in these really authentic, loving, caring ways. But no matter what way anyone comes to him, he's just sort of either brushes them off, makes an excuse, minimize it. There's a fantastic scene between him and the sister at Thanksgiving dinner, which was just right on the money with so many of my videos about manipulation and sort of deflection techniques. You can watch him and the sister do this. She brings up that she got a call from the ex-wife, and then he immediately deflects onto this other person who was the one that saw, and he just blows up about it. And I call that the pufferfish technique, where it just kind of makes you shut up because it's not worth getting into the fight. And so every bit of that, all of those things I teach you guys in the videos is right there. And if you want to see it in action, go watch this movie and really think to yourself, watch those dynamics, think to yourself, how would you confront this person? Or would you, what would you do? Would you feel so bad for him because of what happened to him that you would just let him drink himself to death? Is that the right thing to do? Would you pick a fight about it? What would you do if you were this guy's sister or this guy's ex-wife or this guy's assistant coach? How would you interact with that? And then lastly, and probably most importantly, the thing that really, really touched my heart about this movie was just how this character, you really want him to get better because you can see that he has so much more to offer to the world and how he can impact not only these young kids that are on this basketball team, but his little nephew that looks up to him, his ex-wife who really needs him. And you think, please, please, please get it together. And I got to tell you, that's not unique to this character. That is every single person that I've ever treated. It is so painful because you can see their heart. You can see their unique set of talents and gifts. And each person that is out there struggling has a unique set of gifts, talents, and abilities that no one else has. And if they don't recover, the entire rest of the world is robbed of that. We can't get that as long as someone is drinking and using. And if it's you that's drinking and using, please know that you have something inside that the rest of us needs. And this movie does a really good job of showing how it really is connection that heals addiction. That truly is the answer to addiction. The problem is how do you get people to connect? How do you get people to realize that they're more than that they have more to offer to the world, and that the rest of the world needs them in a way that doesn't make them defensive or shut down or angry? It's such a complicated subject. If you're watching this video and you've watched a lot of my videos before, I really do suggest that you go out and see this movie and try to put a lot of the things that we think about and we talk about together in your mind as you're watching this. If you're new to me and you just came across this because you were trying to do like a movie review or figure out about this movie, I hope you go into it with a whole different lens and mindset on what's happening right there. It's not really talked about on this sort of outside level, but you can see it in the glances, in the looks. There was just this scene where you can see he's trying to do something with his keys and his hand is shaking. And there's this other scene where he can't remember, but he puts his hand on something and you can see like the dirt and the grime under his fingernails. And it's just, I'm telling you, it's going to get to you. So if you haven't been to a movie by yourself, this might be the one to try it on. Because it might get to you. It got to me right there in the theater. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you see it. Let me know what you think. Have you seen it? Do you have any experience with this? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you next time. Hey, Jay, you're in recovery. Was in heroin and benzo addict for a good part of 20 years. I'm 3 years clean. Going to school to get my LCDC. Is that like licensed addiction counselor? That's fantastic. Have you seen this movie, Jay? I'd love to know what you think about it. I feel like it did a really, really, really honest job. And I personally hope Ben gets an award for it because it was amazing. Thanks, guys. Catch you next time.